Once I started to realize that I have the ability to effectively activate a frequency by what I choose to notice and diminish a frequency by what I choose to ignore, that is when everything in my life truly started to change, and everything that I actually wanted started dropping into my life like it was like magic. So it's like 6:30, I think, in the morning right now. I'm hanging out in the backyard. It's gorgeous. And, I wanted to talk about this because, I think I used to wake up in the morning feeling so anxious and so consumed with my thoughts of everything that was potentially like maybe going wrong in my life, or things that were not going great, not going exactly how I wanted. And I have a very like problem solver personality type. Like I want to solve the issue and make it better. When I started to understand the law of attraction truly for what it means, and the third hermetic principle, which is all things are vibration, and I really, really, really started to actually practice that, that is when everything in my life shifted. So what do I mean by this? Everything in our life, like everything around us, all of these things around us, all of this is made up of atoms. And atoms are made up of quarks. And these atoms, quarks, vibrate. Everything in this world vibrates. So I'm vibrating, you're vibrating. Everything has its own unique frequency. And what I've been doing as of the last few months publicly has been interviewing these consciousness researchers. So these are researchers who actually are studying the makeup of reality. What is reality? How does reality work? And how do we work within our realities? What they're finding is that consciousness is actually potentially fundamental. Whereas before, they've always been kind of going off of what Einstein said, which is it's space-time that's fundamental. What they're finding is that space-time might actually be a layer above what the true kind of makeup of our reality is, which is consciousness. So speaking in terms of frequencies and vibrations, atoms and whatever, like because we are all made up of atoms, and potentially because we are all essentially consciousness, some version of consciousness, that brings into play our thoughts and how our thoughts may affect reality. What I started to notice was that what I noticed, I kept getting more of. And if you think about consciousness, if everything is consciousness potentially, then that means our thoughts are consciousness. And there is a way to measure thoughts to a certain degree in terms of frequencies. So each thought has its own frequency attached to it. The higher kind of like, there's like a scale basically of thoughts. There's a scale of like emotions essentially. So if we're talking about the scale, there is an emotion that could be really high, positive, anticipatory, uplifted feeling thought. Like the feeling has a frequency to it. All the way down to the bottom, which is a lower frequency thought, meaning sad, shame, bad feelings, whatever that is. And those have a frequency attached to them too. What I started to see was that what I put my attention on, what I actively noticed, was giving me a feeling that would be equal to that thought, that frequency. So let's say I was feeling sad. You can feel the emotion that comes with sad, right? It's like the feeling is sad, but there's an actual atomic frequency that comes with that. And so then tying it kind of back into the law of attraction stuff, and you know how everybody talks about like you get what you are? Well, what I started to realize is that you get what you notice most often, because I realized that I had a habit of looping bad feeling, negative feeling thoughts. And so as a direct result, my thoughts we're functioning on a frequency that was a lower atomic frequency. And basically, I realized whatever your baseline frequency is essentially what comes back to you. So I was getting things in my life that were equal to the most consistent thoughts I was thinking. When I started to choose my thoughts based off of the feeling that they gave me and based off of ignoring things that didn't feel good to feel, is when all of the things that I started to want actually started to come to me. And it was like, once I actually got it. Now, I think for me, this is the thing that I always was like struggling with is, for a really long time in my life, I struggled with anxiety, overwhelming anxiety. Also, look at my dad's dog that's coming out. He's so cute. Hi, Luke. He's sleepy. Hi, come here. I used to struggle. I would wake up in this house. I'm visiting my dad. I'd wake up in this house and I would be full of anxiety. I would wake up crying because I was so anxious. And there was absolutely no way for me to not think negative thoughts. It was just like, if you've ever been anxious, you know what I'm talking about. It's like people are like, just think differently. And you're like, I literally can't. It's not that easy. What I figured out of pure desperation was a way to do it, a way to interrupt the thoughts that would get me a way to overall feel differently and better over time. Here's the dog. Good morning. This is Luke. It's my dad's dog. He is the coolest. So what I ended up learning to do was shifting my frequency every single day, practicing it every single day, and paying attention to what I noticed and ignoring things that I didn't want to notice every single day. And as a direct result, what came to me was a match to what I chose to notice. Because if you think about it, what you choose to notice is practicing a frequency. Anything we notice, like for example, me noticing little Luke dog, I call him Luke Ball. What I notice about him makes me feel really good. I feel happy. I feel like I love him. Like he's like kind of like squishy, I feel like that little fuzzy feeling when I see him. Choosing to notice Luke is a feeling that comes to me of those feelings. I am perpetuating a frequency, if we're going back to the frequency scale. By choosing to pay attention to him and all of the positive, amazing things about Luke, my dog, I am actively thinking and noticing good feeling thoughts, which is perpetuating a frequency. What I used to do is wake up in the morning and I would be slammed with those negative thoughts about the problems I have to deal with, my yesterday problems, the things that happened at work, this thing I was having, this issue with this boyfriend, an issue with friends. And what was happening is I kept looping and I never solved the problems. I would just keep getting more and more and more problems coming to my mind. And then basically that was my personality. And because those were the thoughts that I was thinking most often, the problems kept coming to me because I was perpetuating the frequency of the emotion that were attached to the problem. So I was essentially perpetuating that frequency. And because we get what we are, we get what we think about, more of those problems and more of those questions about the problems were coming to me. So also there's a lawnmower out here. Sorry, this guy's mowing the lawn. I don't even know. That's an early time to mow the lawn at 6:30 in the morning, my dude. But I guess we are here. So actively interrupting what I chose to notice was the game changer for me. So what I started doing was every single morning, I started doing this thing called the magic book. Never meant to be public. I'd never ever called it the magic book until years later when I started talking to my friends about it, and they started showing crazy changes in their life and how it changed their entire personality, but in a really good way, like in a way to essentially get the things that they wanted in their life versus the things that they didn't want. And it all comes down to what we choose to notice and what we choose to ignore. So I think there's this like thing in society where we've been taught and told and sold to like pay attention to everything. The news is an excellent example of like, here are all the problems in the world. Look at them. And it's like most people watch the news first thing in the day. I would wake up in the morning growing up. It was like kind of this ritual. And I would notice, I would turn on the news with my mom. This is from when I was like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'd go to her room, she'd be getting ready for the day, and then I'd be getting ready for the day. And it was kind of this ritual thing that was, we'd watch the news. So it was kind of nice because what I associated with that time was actually a bonding kind of good feeling thing. But at the same time, what I was practicing was noticing all the problems going on in the world, because that's what the news perpetuates. So as a start to my day, a baseline frequency of my day, I was tuned to the problems of the world. And so because I was tuned to the problems of the world, I was noticing the problems of the world. And because I was noticing the problems of the world just by watching the news, the things that I was noticing throughout my day that had nothing to do with the news matched that frequency, because that is what I was noticing. And because that's what I was noticing, I was attaching a feeling to it, and I was practicing that frequency, that feeling. More of those problems were coming to me in my day. The simple and the obvious solution that I realized over time was to change what I noticed and ignore what I didn't want to notice. Practice the frequency, the feeling of the things I want more of. And more of that came to me. And when I say practicing the magic book completely changed my life, I mean in every possible way. The friends that I want, that are loyal friends, came to me. This drama that was with my old friends, where I didn't quite totally understand why it was there, cleared up. The job that I wanted, I got paid more money than I've ever been paid in my life to get this job that was an easier job than I've honestly ever had in my life. That company paid me $10,000 to move to the city I already wanted to move to, but I didn't have the money at the time to do it. I created a podcast here where I get to speak with somebody like you about really cool stuff. I now get to interview industry leaders, where I've interviewed so many people in the food industry, the healthcare industry, about carnivore, which I coach on now. I talk to these industry experts about consciousness. I spoke with Thomas Campbell about this. I just spoke with Dean Radin about this. I mean, how do you talk to people like that? It's crazy. And I'm working on a project at my work that is like unbelievably cool. I can't share it because it's not public yet, but it is sick, and I'm working with the CRO on it. And finally, the people that are on my team at work are the most amazing people, truly incredible people, like just awesome human. I'm like surrounded by amazing people. So what I'm getting at is I stopped noticing the things I didn't want to notice, and I started actively working on the things I wanted to notice, because it was perpetuating the frequency of the thing that I wanted to notice and feel. And it changed my baseline frequency over time to where my kind of like antenna is then tuned to the frequency, the vibration of good feeling thoughts, back to that scale. And because the law of attraction, that saying, birds of a feather flock together, you get what you think about, you get what you are, thing is real. All of that started to come to me because it matched me, the people, the things, the money, the experiences, the opportunities. And it all comes from choosing what to notice and choosing what to ignore. So anyways, this is a game changer. I don't think that, like, we are taught in society to constantly talk and think about our problems. I think therapy is a great thing. I'm not hating on therapy. I think it's important. It's almost like a step needed before being able to do this. You have to move through your emotions and feel them, and that's real. And at a certain point, we have to pay attention. I had to pay attention to what I kept perpetuating, what I was noticing, what I was talking about, what I was thinking about. And once I processed those emotions and then started to tune my frequency, my antenna to what I wanted, that is when what I actually wanted started to come to me, because I changed. My antenna was dialed, it was tuned. Just like a radio station, you have to tune into the station you want to hear, otherwise you can't hear it. Just like a phone line, I had to be able to be on the same line to reach a friend, to reach them. I have to be on a high frequency feeling more often than not to be able to get the match of that back to me. So anyways, I have started a community where I talk to this community about how to do this, how to do the magic book, which is the thing that I started doing every single day to actually actively implement this. Because like to me, it wasn't enough to just meditate, you know? It wasn't enough to just watch people like this talking about this. There's actually a way to do it, to interrupt, that I interrupted my thought patterns of pure crazy anxiety, depression, all that kind of stuff. And it takes practice. And I did it over time. So if you're curious to learn more about this, I have a community where I've started speaking with people about how to do this, and it's shifting the frequency over time. Go ahead and drop in the comments below Magic Book. I will send you a link to the next webinar where I will be it's just the thing where I'll be talking about this to see if you're interested. But I'll be speaking about frequencies and that kind of stuff from what I've learned. All of the people I've interviewed about consciousness research, the work I've done over the last 6 years, studying this, implementing this, trial and error. And then maybe it'll be something that will be of interest to you. But even if not, today, what am I going to notice? Look at how gorgeous this is. I mean, it's insane. Like, not only is it just beautiful trees, but look at the moon. And it's insane. You know, I've got my dog who's somewhere over here. Oh, look at him. You can't really see him. Oh, no, you can. He's just kind of dinking around, just looking at things. He's so cute. He's going to start barking because this neighbor's coming by. Yep, there he goes. Right on cue. The trees. I mean, the sound of nature. Can't really hear it right now because of the dog. I have my coffee, just a little bit. I get to hang out with my dad today. I'm gonna go work with my team, amazing team. And it's like we're so conditioned to notice things we don't want. Pay attention, and I had to pay attention to the things that I do want, what's beautiful, and there's so much beauty. So, all right, I hope this gives some perspective. Pay attention to what you notice. Ignore what you don't want to notice. Practice the feeling, the frequency of what I want to notice is how I go into my day. And that changes what comes to me. All right. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you on the next one. See ya.